interesting.
No, it's not interesting. It's some of that old bullshit's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're fucked.
So, yeah, pretty much. So I still have a broken pipe in the yard, and I don't know when the hell we're getting that fixed.
Get out the shovel. You can fix it. Duct tape.
The leak detection company has rescheduled 5 times now.
Yeah.
You got a shovel. You don't need no detector. Just dig on down there and find that there leak.
I'm just horrified. I just, I don't understand how the hell this happened. I'm blaming a tree root. That's my only thought.
It's probably PVC, and those things still can break with age.
Yeah, I know. I want them just to cap it. Just cap the irrigation line. I don't use a sprinkler system. Fuck it. My personal opinion is, I believe in native plants, and native plants have learned how to survive the swell and drought and everything else that goes on. If they need water to survive, they need to die.
I'm right there with you. I mean, Florida, I don't water my lawn. I don't really care about the lawn. If I could completely native plant it, I would. And right now it is being taken over by native plants. They're called weeds.
The problem with Paul is he lives in a neighborhood that is all hoity-toity with its greenery.
I'm hoity-toity with my greenery, just not my grass. I let my grass die and fry. Fuck that shit. St. Augustine is a weed. It's not even grass. It's garbage. Completely garbage. Oh.
Tim called us an elder demon.
Now, wait a minute, Tim. Let's not go. 2 elder demons and a younger one have joined the stream. Also, V is there. I can't help but conclude.
Clearly, I have you all fooled. And
Succubi, baby.
Please.
On that note, howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Robot Society. I am Paul Lee Cooley. Joining me today, Veronica Giguere, Terry Mixon, and special guest Antowan. That's, I might add. I didn't know if you wanted to say your last name, and there it is. So, what are we doing here anyway? Oh, we have an episode or something to do. But we should probably start off with some small talk so V can tell us what she's been up to.
Let's see. I finished narrating my first book of the calendar year. Yay! Sports romance. So, and since I am narrating it for a small pub company, I don't have to do anything else but wait for pickups. Yeah. Because I don't like coordinating stuff if I don't have to. So, and I decided this year that I would be tracking all of the books I recorded by crocheting. So I was because some people do temperature blankets, and they'll do a row for the temperature. So you see after 360 some days how the temperature changes throughout the year. Yeah, no. So I decided to overcomplicate it and make a primer, I guess, of stitches and colors based on genres and subgenres. So that's why currently I have, it's wine colored yarn, and it is a double crochet chevron stitch for sports romance. And because I clocked in about 5 hours of recording, there are going to be 5 rows of it. So hopefully it'll be a nice big blanket by the end of the year. And if anything, I have something to post on social media about, because it'll be pretty.
So Yay. What color is
my
what flavor of that? Because let's see. Sports romance is this wine color. Alien romance is teal, so that's gonna be coming up later this month. No, I would just, it's not difficult to crochet leather, you just can't mix it with other materials.
No!
My apologies. My daughter is currently watching hockey, and her team is currently in overtime, and I think one of the defensemen just got a penalty. So, yeah.
James says the fact that you know that about the leather is hilarious.
Well, it's kind of logical. If you try to mix different things to crochet, they aren't going to hold well. But no. So, I'm trying to think what other flavors of smut are in there. I have an extensive, like, a different thing for like shifter romance, because it's not just shifter romance. Wolf shifter romance is gray. Dragon shifter romance is gold. Vampires are blood red, of course. Billionaire romance is money green. And technically all of those wind up being spicy. So it's just... Look,
Yes,
I bought about
what about the ones that are
worth of yarn.
uber spicy?
Just like straight up erotica?
Straight up erotica.
I don't know. I'll have to find another stitch for that.
You'll have to find another stitch.
I'll find another stitch. Because, yeah.
Is it manual shift romance or automatic transmission?
Transmission.
Ooh, that's a kind of personal question there, Bubba.
Well, there's somebody going to be holding the stick shifter, so obviously it's manual.
So usually, if you want a full breakdown of the trend, usually your first encounter winds up, well, depending upon the subgenre, but the first encounter is usually more, it's usually more, I'm trying to follow the metaphor properly.
Give up.
I'm scared now.
It's probably more automatic. But by the second or third, it shifts into overdrive. And most of the time, you're talking about a hybrid situation.
Well, obviously, because we've got Antowan here, we have to ask what stitch goes for butt stuff. We kind of do. It's pretty much mandatory at this point.
I figured it wouldn't be brown. I mean,
That's too easy. That's too easy.
That's too easy.
Exactly.
Too on the nose.
Don't make my brown eye blue. I don't know.
That is a totally different kink. Thank you.
Some places
So
ice cubes just don't belong.
We're abandoning
tell
this
you what.
topic or this
Yeah.
particular segue
So,
before it gets
other
completely out of
than-
control.
Other than, my my narration inspired hooking, that's really been my week. So what about you, Terry?
Wow, we totally need to put that in a note context
Yeah,
quotes.
I was going to say, somebody quick, put that in no context quotes for me.
You realize you can get T-shirts that have the crochet stuff on it, just says I'm a naughty hooker, and y'all are so.
Oh, behave!
Go on. So Terry, how are you? Now that I have derailed.
Well, let's see. Yesterday, we went ahead and made the big honking withdrawal from my retirement account to go ahead and start the renovation and all of the other things that we're doing. So we're committed now. It's officially going to happen because now money has been allocated and withdrawn. It'll take some time to get here, maybe early next week, maybe mid next week it'll get deposited, and deposits will be paid and things will happen. And I've decided that I'm not going to post pictures of the new car on social media because that's just asking for trouble. But I'll probably put them in the Discord here because it's much more private.
Did you buy a
Makes
Cybertruck?
sense.
That's why you don't want to share.
Did I buy a what?
A Cybertruck.
Yeah, that's exactly what. No, I did not. I did not. Those are the stupidest looking vehicles ever. We've got like 3 of them in our neighborhood, and every time I see them, I'm like, God, that's horrifying. Why would anyone pay any money for that at all? What is wrong with them?
It's a thing. It's a thing.
But what kind of thing is it? I mean, what kind of mental
status
illness
thing?
causes someone to buy a Cybertruck? Obviously, there
status
needs to
thing?
be something. There needs to be something going on in their heads.
Yeah, I think
Well, it's rated to work on any other planet than Earth.
Yes, not living on any other planet other than Earth, however, we are stuck with, well, still, you have to explain yourself. Now, admittedly, the car that we are buying is a hybrid, but it is not one that is like a plug-in hybrid. It charges off of the engine when it's running and provides electrical boost to the gas mileage. And so I feel like I'm contributing in a sane manner to saving the environment.
Okay, fair enough.
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
But did you get anything creative done?
I did indeed get the new series, the first novel in the new series started, though I haven't written as much as I want to on it. Words are being written. I did previously had finished the short story that's an intro to this.
Right.
So I am getting this kicked off. Starting it off with a thief character, it's hard to start them off on two separate jobs and not make it sound alike. That's a problem that I didn't anticipate when I started this particular character, because they were on a job in the story. Now he's on a job in the novel. I'm like, this seems too similar. I need to have ways of making it be different and not sound like just a repeat of what I was doing before. And I did not anticipate that. So that's proven a little bit more of a challenge than I expected right up the bat.
No, I hadn't
Just
really
doing
thought
ways.
about that.
These-
Although, if you think about it, there are some series that kind of start with that. There's always somebody's on a mission to do something, or you catch them in the middle of the mission without much context to what they're doing, and then they solve that, and then they move on to the next one. Whatever.
Sure, but I don't want to make this. I don't want to make the thievery areas sound similar to one another. And because this is a little bit going off of Indiana Jones, I can't make him stealing from a museum, which was my initial thought of what I would do. And I'm like, no, that's a little too on the nose. I need to back that off and make a change. I can do some of that later, but I can't do it first off.
Okay. I'm glad you found your way in, at least.
Have them steal from the tomb and then get robbed by the museum.
Maybe I should do a Tomb Raider thing. Yeah, that's what I should do. Totally do a Tomb Raider thing.
Tomb Raider.
I did start off with deciding that the new secondary character that is going to be the main character's partner is going to be of Japanese descent in an area of space settled heavily by the Japanese. So I get to play a little bit around some of the themes there, but I also need to be careful that I'm not stereotyping. I just want to have flavor. I don't want to have stereotypes. And that is also proving to be an interesting line to walk, because I'm not Japanese. Do I know what the stereotypes are? Do I know where I'm going there, where I can play off the themes without being too heavy on them?
I mean, cybernetic samurai is something that everyone does, so you're fine.
I totally should do that. I totally need to have, some cyber decking going on.
Cyber decking?
It's a cyberpunk thing.
Okay, I wanted to make sure you weren't saying something else. That's all.
No, I was not saying something else. I totally knew what that meant.
Well,
Antowan, what have you been up to, creatively speaking?
Oh, back in my day, when I was a young child. Oh man. So besides like school and corporatism, I have actually wrote for the first time in like ages, and I immediately threw it away because I hated it.
Welcome to the club.
Yes, it's been a while. But I will say it was nice writing again, and it's been a very, very long time since I've written for actual like creativity and not just profit.
Term
but-
papers, essays, etc.
Yeah, presentations for corporate executives and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's really nice. But I've been like, otherwise, like I've been finally reading significantly more. I haven't picked up a nonfiction book unless it's work related or school related in a while. Like I said, I started Terry's second book. I only got 12 more after this one. Man,
I'll have the last book in the series arc done by the time you get to it.
you're not wrong. I finished the Medusa Zone also, and I'm still working on Medusa Junior's Grand Illusion series. So it's nice to actually be able to do stuff that's not introductory econometrics.
I
By the
fell
way, we're going to
asleep
go
just
through
looking
this.
at that.
We got to go through this whole book in 10 weeks.
Oh. Huh.
I am so glad I am done with that crap.
Better man than I.
I
She's like,
So-
no.
no, I'm like, that was like my son's one of his best classes his senior year, and he wound up being asked to be a tutor. So yeah.
So it is interesting because LinkedIn recently, and I probably will be like an adjunct this upcoming fall for like accounting classes. So
Oh,
Nice.
cool.
that's So I'm officially hitting my boomer arc, people. I'm joining the club.
Boom!
But no,
Could be worse.
I'm
Could
looking.
be your villain arc.
I mean, I think that's when I become like CEO. But then, like, I just like
He's not wrong.
I pulled a rug from under them, and it'd be like, "Oh, psych!" I'm like the undercover villain. Like I'm actually going to do something good. Like, and then that's when they vote me out.
That sounds about normal. That sounds about normal. Well, let's see. In between dealing with broken pipes and other nonsense, I managed to finish recording the Medusa Zone. It's now with ACX, waiting to get verified. And I finished the Black Evolution. Got it completely mastered and up into Audible. So again, I'm waiting on that for them to go. And then today I worked on, what was I working on? Getting an Ancient Trap audiobook going. And in addition to that, I've been writing. And we're now over 53,000 words.
And what was the target we were supposed to hit for this?
35 to 50.
Did you
So
fail
close.
math as a child?
So close.
No, I failed. I failed. Okay, let me put it this way.
Maybe you're counting in a non-base 10.
It's so hard figuring this
System.
stuff out.
You have a choice to make when you're writing suspense, which is you can either have things happen off screen, so to speak, and have people come across them with no explanation, no context to what's going on, or you can write a scene giving the reader context, even though the character who comes across these things has no context for what's going on. And you have to decide where you're going to do that, how often you're going to do it, and what you can get away with. I have a lot of characters now. There's 15, 20 people on this island. Not everybody gets on screen, but I need some of them to be on screen so that some folks can see or understand exactly what's happening. And I may have written too many of those. I don't know yet. I won't know until I go back and read it when I start looking for stuff to cut. So we'll see what when we finally get there. We'll see exactly what it looks like. I'll keep you all in the loop of what I cut, but I have at least 10,000 words to go, at least. So I've got to get on that this week and see if I can't get it, or next week and get it kicked in the head. Other than that, God, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Just a house falling apart and an old writer. What are you going to do? We're not here to talk about that, though.
We're not.
Oh, no.
No.
What are we going to talk about today?
Oh, no.
What are we going to talk about today? Well, today's episode.
Wow. Don't ever do that voice again.
I don't like the scary robot puppet voice.
Antowan made the mistake of reaching out about a brainstorming episode.
You
He's working on something, and I think he needs a little bit of help with maybe some details or ideas, some things he can add in there, or maybe jumping off points. You know, the usual DRS nonsense. And of course, we will give him every idea he will not use because they're all insane. But
Yeah.
they may trigger something. Hopefully not law enforcement. Anyway, so before we get on this, Antowan, do you have a summary of what it is you were trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, so I'll just give some quick details and then I'll give like my little pitch that I have for it. So I'm thinking it's not going to be real world based, of course. I was thinking originally like sci-fi, but with a hidden part that you don't figure that out until much later. But recently I've been thinking maybe it'll be more fantasy, but there won't be any sort of like magic type thing there. That's the sort of thing. As we get further on, I'll let y'all talk me in or out of one of the two details, right? And so what I have for like a little pitch is here. So a capitalist from a distant land seizes an opportunity to bring about true transformation. In doing so, she will ignite a revolution that will reshape the world. A lawyer seeks to right the wrong and aims to help his father's marauding friends. And a tradesman discovers a hidden nation whose untapped potential will alter the course of history and mark down the dawn and twilight of their era. And so these three characters are going to be the main focal points in which the ending of the book will introduce a new antagonist, right? And originally I'm aiming for like a sort of, I don't know, cosmic horror-ish type guy, creature. I mentioned in the email. So originally, like I read 14. Y'all did a book review on it a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like it. I really like that series. I finished the third one recently, and I always liked his little take on the Lovecraftian horrors that he had in there. He called them the squales, right? And they were just like, yeah. So I thought it was very unique because it's like, when you think Lovecraftian horrors, there's always this perception that they're intelligent or highly intelligent beings or something because we can't understand them. There's sort of the perception that they're like higher than us, but they're also smarter than us. I want to sort of flip that on its head and make it more like something from like Nope. Yeah, it's Peter Klein's dream. Make it something like from Nope, where it's like it is more of a bestial thing. Yeah, it's an animal, but it's being driven by a sort of primal urge, and we'll discover more about that as time goes on.
I like that already. Because you do have the mastermind creatures, and then you got the minions, and then you got the other ones that are not involved at all, but just happen to be in the same universe kind of deal.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that.
And so
what do you need help from us for?
Sounds like you've had it figured out already.
Yeah.
No. Well, see, that's the issue. I don't really. So that's where some of the issues come from. So I was thinking like the tech part when I was saying it's like a secret undercover sci-fi, because the whole premise is that the two main characters, the lawyer and the capitalist, they're in nations that are now beginning to go through industrialization, right? The third guy is actually, originally I was thinking he was going to discover a nation that turns out to be like spacefarers. They've been here, but they didn't interact with the locals because they didn't want to try to influence history and stuff like that. And while I thought, I'm still going back and forth between it, I feel like there's like potential for it, but because like the whole main catalyst for like drawing the quote unquote squale out is the discovery of like a new technology that's supposed to like activate his sort of like primal instincts that makes him go on a terror streak across the whole like world and so on and so forth. And it's mega. Oh, sorry, go ahead, V.
No, keep going. I just.
Okay. All right, yeah. So it's like mega catastrophic too, because I'm thinking like from interactions, like maybe he has the potential to like. This is another part of the sci-fi. He has the potential to like actually destroy matter, or maybe something like catastrophic, like maybe parts of his body is made of antimatter. So like any sort of collision with normal matter causes natural catastrophes and all that other stuff. It's a lot of stuff I'm trying to play through, but it depends on which route I want to go for.
Okay. Does it have to be in space? Because you could. It doesn't.
So yeah, the whole premise
when you
is
mentioned,
like it's one planet. Yeah.
Right. So when you mentioned like Lovecraftian cosmic horror, and something that has a very base need, two things came to mind, and they're both really weird, and I apologize. One was Tremors, which we don't necessarily need a Kevin Bacon moment, but you have.
Oh, whoa!
Okay,
wait a minute here.
I love a Footloose moment as much as anybody else, but Antowan may not want a dance sequence in the middle of his book.
Well, let's let him say. Is there going to be a dance sequence? Yes or no?
I mean, if it adds to it, it could be. I mean, why not?
Okay, so I thought of Tremors because you've got this like weird creature that it's coming in, and people are just trying to live, and they're like, no, stop stepping on our ceiling. But then I also thought of Cabin in the Woods, which does a wonderful job of having layers of different people, and this faceless horror that is, coming up to get folks. So what I wondered is if you don't have to have stuff in space, you could have people living, subterranean. You've got stuff like Fallout. You've got all kinds of, I don't know if you ever watched The 100, but
yes.
you've got the people who survived for, decades in those Fallout shelters way beneath the ground. So if you've got groups that split, would there be a reason why your surface dwellers and your lost, soon to be found folks, why one group's technology advanced faster than others? And then depending upon where you put people, simply messing around with an environment is going to have some creature get pissy. Either, the terrain gets diverted, water gets cut off, just shifting things could mess with your gas levels, and maybe they start suffocating and they have to tunnel up or move through so they can breathe. But the problem with just tech-wise, once you start to get into the whole thing of, hey, we're going to go to space, that's a huge, huge, huge leap with a lot of the science that's involved. And there are a lot of little steps to go through. But if you stay on Earth, I think there's more you can hand wave and get away with.
That's what I was thinking too, because even if I did make it like they were forming like a spacefaring or like civilization or anything, I wanted to give like a good reason why they landed and never went back, right? And like I was wondering, like maybe if somehow like the creature was like a baby version of like a real bigger, worser horror, and then like if they defeat it, it wakes Mama, and Mama comes down eventually.
Yeah, what if the planet is actually the nursery for
has children?
We've absolutely never seen that happen before.
I'm suddenly struck with a Futurama episode.
I haven't watched a lot of Futurama. It's just
you got to see the Poplar episode. It is just fucking epic. You got to watch it. Gotta watch it.
So, chat. Let's see. So, Matt spoke up. Maybe have underground dwellers having technology like bunker survivors, but then surface dwellers having some sort of mutant power from radiation. So, yeah. So there's
like Fallout.
Yeah, like Fallout. And then James points out the antagonist who could be empowered by some cosmic horror. Is he following the actions of some even larger being?
That's what I was thinking.
And I don't think you have to have sci-fi and fantasy separate. Terry had recommended me a really, really good David Weber series that blends the two really well, and gotta find it again on my Audible. But it's a fun listen, and it's good research.
Was this the
Why
Apocalypse
are they
Troll?
recommending Brandon Sanderson to me? Why?
Was it the Apocalypse Troll?
Yes, I think it was.
The Apocalypse
that's
Troll.
The funniest name. Yeah, no, that's the funniest name ever.
I like it.
Well, it's very technological, but it.
Off Armageddon Reef. That's what it is. That was the first book in the series.
Okay.
That's a great series.
Yeah, but
it's called the Safe Hold series.
Thanks. But it does a really good job of setting different groups at different tech levels and explaining why they're at different levels, and it never feels forced. Granted, it's David Weber, so you are looking at Sanderson levels of word count, and loads of meetings, plenty of dialogue, so many meetings. I really thought people were kidding, and it's like, no, I mean, what? How would David Weber write today now that we have Zoom?
He'd have a meeting about it.
Have a meeting about it. Anyway.
They'll have a meeting about it. Should continue to have meetings in Zoom or not.
So.
Well, when I was an consultant, you had to have the pre-meeting meeting, the meeting, and then the post-meeting, and then the post meeting, which was usually getting coffee. I was screaming about how stupid the client was.
I suggested when I was at NASA, I suggested to our group lead during one of our meetings that, are we really prepared for this? We should probably have a pre-meeting meeting. And he's like, don't you even start. Don't you even start.
So if you have people at different tech levels, there's a couple ways to do that. If you moved it from Earth, then you've got a world to describe. You don't necessarily have to go into the science in a lot of ways. What you do need to do is set up exactly what kind of technologies they do have. Like they may have maglev trains or something like that in the lower technology areas. Meanwhile, you've got this group who has been working away and hasn't shown anybody off their stuff. What's the Black Panther's country?
Wakanda.
Oh, yeah.
Wakanda, kind of like Wakanda in a way. And like V said, most of their stuff could take place underground. They could be going to space for the first time, which would introduce some all sorts of crazy stuff because maybe they've never used this fuel cell before, which causes problems.
You don't have to
So-
succeed the first time. That's something
could
else. You do not have to succeed.
Actually, I think that could be a good ending for like the first book. Like Mama, like they killed a baby or whatever the original one is, and then like a bigger one comes, and now it's like, oh, everyone's dead. We should just leave, right? And it's so what few survivors there is pulling my Paul Cooley. I'll bring them what few survivors there are off into the world, and then they'll see space for the first time, and it'll be like very eye opening for people that's always lived on a single planet.
Yeah,
And you
I mean,
open the next book with going, survivors called it the Cooley event. Only a hand.
Cooley event. Well, regardless of how you do that, I mean, basically you've got. Think about Africa during the 1800s. They didn't have any tech, so to speak. They didn't need it. They were completely at one with the land until these bozos came over and started doing things with technology. So you always have the possibility of kind of basing it off of history in that way, where things were a little more segregated in the sense that the not every country was interconnected. You know, these people had no reason to go to the ocean, so they never did. Whereas these other people had reasons to go to the ocean because they were crazy, and therefore they discovered all these other places, bumped into people, or just chose to stay the hell away from them. You've got all sorts of opportunities there to, you know, make the differentiation and make that happen. There's nothing to say they can't be running on coal locomotives for crying out loud in the low tech areas.
Yeah, that's
You
what
were
I was
talking about
thinking. 'Cause, like,
industrialization.
yeah, because like the sort of premise to introduce like the capitalist is like she's sort of in the beginning, like she shows up at like what is fundamentally like an armory. It's a former armory, but they turn it into a manufacturing factory for bullets and arms. And so she just outright spies the factory, right? But she does so at a time when like these two nations are supposedly at war, and an army is actually approaching it, and obviously an army approaching a factory for arms would want to seize it, and she, being her, is not going to give up or let that happen, and so she just pays off whatever the local villages or anyone willing to stay to try to hold her ground until like that's either opposing army or so until they give up. I'm sort of trying to work through that part, but that's sort of like the beginning arc for her. But that's how she's thrust into the world in order to like start making influence.
Sadly, the Cooley event is not survivable at any range where it can be witnessed.
Witnessed. I mean, that's the point. I guess that would be it, right, Tim? Like that's why the children would call it the Cooley event.
James Terrell says, describing how the world works to the reader when all the people in the scenario know everything is always really hard. Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
And the way that you handle that is, and the way I learned how to handle that is Philip K. Dick specifically. Mm-hmm. He doesn't give a fuck if you understand what's going on. The characters do. And we catch context clues from how the characters interact with their world. We may have to give like a sentence or two about what this particular thing does. Show it being used in an action, show it being used somehow, and then we get a lay of the land for how these people interact with their technology, and will even give us a hint of what their technology level is. Now, if you don't want to get into the, as you know, Bob situation, obviously, and that's why I try and do my best to show what these things are used for, rather than trying to give an essay on how this fuel cell works, because nobody gives a shit. They want to get to the Space Marines battling the monsters. So that's how I handle that in specific. But you don't have to explain all this stuff, but you do have to care about how the characters see the technology, how they interact with the technology. And it's just like taking an Uber geek and a regular person off the street who has used a computer a little bit. The difference between the two in scale of understanding the tech is just massive. And you don't even have to explain that. It's just simple. I can type with my fingers, whereas this other person is typing at 90 words per minute and making code and everything else. It's a big difference showing how those people interact with their world, as well as what their jobs might potentially be.
And
so little tricks like that, I think, help.
No, I agree. That's sort of where because I know the lawyer part's sort of weird, right? But that's sort of like the whole art. He's like a vehicle to introduce the tech. So like his father's marauding friends is actually a band of like mercenaries, and they were hired by a company to go insert unobtainium here, which is the premise for like the whole new technology that's going to kick off the new industrial revolution. And part of the legal proceedings is the fact that they're suing for damages due to their health and everything, which is an odd thing because it's not supposed, the mercenaries, no one cares, right? And so that's sort of like the premise, but like the whole point is that he sort of wins eventually, and that brings this element or whatever it will be insert thing here to the light, and that kicks off a new arms race for trying to obtain it and industrialize as quick as possible. So they all can go. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're saying that one of the bigger plot things is that you've got a brand new energy source that is being appropriated. I assume mined or refined.
Either or.
Okay.
I'm trying to work that part.
Because if you've got a new energy source that is being discovered and mined. Yes, Mr. Cooley, what would you like to share with the class?
Keep going. I have thought. Keep going.
You have thoughts? So if you've got this new resource that is being mined, then you have something that is disturbing the earth. You have something it could be a resource that is needed by your cosmic horror. It could be their food. It could be their eggs. It could be actually if it's their eggs, then wow, you're in deep shit with Mom. And that would be a wonderful reason, because it would be a wonderful reason for the bigger ones to come and take over, because those horrible little meat sacks are committing infanticide. Eat them. And it'd be great.
No, I like that.
No, I have another idea. I was thinking in this particular instance, I would start with a writing of the rig.
Like the shoulder rig, or?
Yeah, something along those lines where they're actually mining for the resource or whatever else. But that introduces an interesting wrinkle. If they're having to mine for this for this stuff, and that it does belong to something else or interacts with something else, that's a whole subplot in and of itself. Is what kind of dangers these people are talking about or encountering while they're doing what they do. Once they kick it off, it just kind of depends on how you want to work that. But you've got so many possibilities to open that can of worms. It could be something terrestrial. It could be something in space. However you want to make it happen, there's absolutely no reason why you can't do that. James says if it's a mineral ore, bigger countries' blocks are going to stomp hard on any smaller groups that have access to it. This is very true.
Yeah. And then if you get into something where maybe it's not land-based, but it is water-based, and you're having to do undersea mining, well, that's a whole other mess. Paul likes this idea. Where you've got, is it 12 miles out? Is it in international waters? How deep does the vein go? And I mean, that right there, that may be a bit beyond the technology that you have, but the mineral rights, it's not just where you drilled down, it's where that vein actually goes. So that's a whole other mess to deal with. And if you've got a lawyer character who is starting out with, my guys were going after this resource, and it turns out that it gave them, made their eyes fall out, and they grew 3 tails, and you should pay them for damages. And then they realize, maybe I need to switch sides and defend the folks who are going after the resource. Maybe I need to be on the side of one of these smaller countries or smaller provinces for rights. Because that's another thing. If you've got, depending upon how you set up your society, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be Western in its concept. It can be more tribal and cultural, where you've got more shared experiences rather than just, hey, look, we're going to draw this, and y'all here are this. So
Might actually be a culture as opposed to another one that stole from everything.
But
Right.
But yeah, there's, depending upon how you set up the world, I think a lot of your questions will get answered. And then that'll open up to where you can go, oh my gosh.
James says lawyer gets contacted by the cosmic horror to sue humanity for mining its offspring. That is a Futurama episode if there ever was one.
But here's the thing. If it gets to the point where your cosmic horror, if it's depending upon, maybe the stuff that's on Earth isn't sentient. Maybe it has to go, or as we consider it sentient, maybe it has to go through some metamorphosis to actually get enough brain cells to communicate. But once the parent or the top form of that evolution realizes it, then they're able to contact. It's like, oh, wait, you have this in your culture that we can deal with? Great, we're going to do that. Sue them. Now, I don't know how you do a courtroom scene with that, because I don't know if they're going to fit behind the desk. I don't know how you're going to let them move into the courtroom, or what appendage they'd use to swear upon whatever book they're going to use. That's going to be up to you. But yeah, aren't you glad you offered the story up? Because
we're writing the novel that you're not going to write.
You're going
That's usually how this works.
I'm going
to
run away after this.
I like the part with it not being sentient yet, because that can answer the bestial part, right? Like it's like an animal now because it's still an infant in many ways, and it could be like little baby Yoda in a way. Like he's 50 or whatever, but he's still a child or whatever.
Shiny, get that?
Wasn't that a Godzilla thing? Where?
Oh yeah, nah. Wasn't it the 1999 one?
I'm talking about even before that. I seem to remember there was one where they had eggs. It was a Godzilla flick, but I don't remember which monster he was fighting with. I don't remember. It was something like that. It would be interesting. 2000, Tim says.
I'm sorry, Tim. I can't let you do that. This is...
Or tell the story from the point of view of the cosmic horror, and you only find out at the end that the bad guys killing the kids are humans mining.
Okay, that would be a killer prologue for the second book. I mean, maybe the first book, but I think I might give too much away in the first book. But that would be a killer prologue for the second book.
No, that would be perfect.
Or as a teaser short story.
Yes. James says, where's the jury? Well, this is the fifth one we picked. Is we found that anyone who hears my client's voice directly goes insane or has their head explode. What happened to the jury? The defendant ate them.
Your Honor, this is not a jury of my peers. These are the separatists that killed my child.
These are inferiors.
No, that's where the jury of cosmic horrors come in. I like that idea. I find the concept of the different tech levels very interesting. I've only ever really worked in, I guess Soul and Beyond is getting to that point now, but I've only ever worked where everybody has basically the same level of tech. So that's an interesting concept to me. Really interesting concept to me. I'm going to have to do that at some point.
Yeah.
You've given me ideas.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to figure out... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was trying to say, I got to figure out why the tradesman finds this random nation also. That's my other sort of thing. It's okay, he finds this advanced nation. Was he fleeing Was there some sort of conflict? Oh wait, there's an idea. Shit, she's right. If there's deep sea mining, and he gets fucking shipwrecked, and he just washes up on shore, like holy fuck.
Or what's worse than being washed up? If you're deep down, your ass is not going to get to the surface. You're gonna pull in enough water. You're not going to be able to expel the water to get buoyant. And so if he winds up wrecking and he's on the last gulps of oxygen, he blacks out, and then he comes to sometime later and he's in an underground bunker, but it's not underground, it's underground. And that's how he's discovered. And so, of course, no one's going to explore that deep because depending upon the level of technology, they aren't able to go that deep and, safely. So, yeah, that's how you can discover things. Just don't discover the black because we don't need that.
No, it's already been done. It didn't end well for anybody involved.
I should make an illusion to it. Just have like a black tentacle come out of nowhere.
You're welcome to do that.
It goes by waves just very lazily at the sunken piece, and then
Or it grabs a jellyfish.
If you read an ancient trap, you saw him too if you were looking for it. Anyway, I'll leave that where it is. Terry, you've been strangely quiet. What are you thinking about this?
I'm thinking that he's got the right idea and he just needs to start writing and seeing what's developing as opposed to just trying to figure it out ahead of time. That's what I'm thinking.
I think you're right with that, because basically a lot of these things are jumping off points. You're wondering about, why is this character doing something? Well, when you start writing it, you'll figure that out
pretty darn fast.
Darn fast, just by putting them in the situation. So, like the lawyer easily can be in the middle of a case, or they just lost a case, or whatever else, or doing research on it. All that kind of stuff would be a really good in, as far as basically doing some world building about who these people, what the person does, who they are, how they treat other people, and maybe exactly what their worldview is. And by doing that, you're also explaining about the world. Mm-hmm. And then, that's the difference between, having just one character and you've got, three of them may not intersect by the sounds of it for a very long time in the stories, correct?
Yeah. So they sort of like intersect towards like the ending arc when it's like, hey, we got to go kill a baby. Let me not say that on YouTube. We got to go kill a giant monster baby.
So, and when you're doing that, I was thinking Peter F. Hamilton wrote, I can't remember which book it is now.
He's written like 1,000 books. He's like,
I know.
He's literally the Sanderson of sci-fi. That's what I've always called him. Or I guess Sanderson's the Hamilton of fantasy, because I guess whichever came first.
I think Hamilton's... Oh, actually, I don't know. Regardless, what he had a situation where he was telling the stories of these 5 characters, and they were all separate, even though they were working on a problem. The problems they were working with were all related to one another. And it wasn't until the end of the first book where they suddenly start rubbing up against one another, where basically their fates are smacking in and they've got to figure out what the hell. So then in book 2, book 3, you've got your characters already figured out. You've got them, their social dynamic, whatever that might be, has been, displayed for everything. And then it's just a matter of growing the camaraderie or the antagonism as things go on. But basically, if I'm going to write that, I would probably try writing round robin. So what you'd end up with is basically you're going to write a scene with one character, maybe 2 scenes, 3 scenes, and then you switched characters, right? And then basically try and use the last chapter of one character to lead off into the next, even if it's not related directly. It may still be going toward the end of the plot or the next plot device to move forward. So you have if you do the round robin, at least in suspense thriller, that's how you get everything moving and keep it moving, because while somebody's thinking, somebody else is doing something. As long as you constantly switch between those, you're in good shape.
Yeah, that was my original plan. And I got to make sure like the guy, like the third guy, the tradesman, is like more interesting, because like I have nothing but content for like the lady, because it's like she's a female capitalist, Yeah, it's not going to roll well in a patriarchal society. So, she's going to be
And we love you
she's
for
going to be
that.
putting her dick down on the table and be like, "Look here."
Mine's bigger than yours.
Exactly. And then of course
Yeah.
the lawyer goes to history of his father is dead in the book, but he's helping his family, his father's friends, as a way to sort of reconcile with the fact he was never close with him. But now he never knew his father well, so he gets to know him through the mercenaries. So
Yeah. You're just basically gonna, I think, gonna have to start it out. But if you lay down some of the world rules ahead of time, it will help. But the other thing is the characters are going to help you figure that out.
yeah,
And the hand wavium, like V said, the hand wavium is a good thing to have. We don't need to know how a maglev train works. We don't need to learn. We don't. I don't know. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know how an airplane works. Only that it flies, because the average character doesn't give a damn. They've been using it their whole life and don't care. But showing those people doing those things basically sets the expectation. Hey, they have hover cars. What else do they got? It's one of those deals where it basically says, okay, this is not Earth. This is not in a time that we would recognize. This is not in our space necessarily, in our formation of history. And if you have people who are stuck in the relative 1700s and people who are in the 2100s, that's going to get interesting.
mm-hmm.
Let's see. Lay down your one world rule, then force yourself to break your one rule. How very Batman of you.
I think there were two things. One, I would grab, if you're not sure where you're going and you're okay with potentially throwing away words and just straight up doing discovery writing,
Yeah.
grab each of your taglines and write 10,000 words. Just either a short story, character description, a chunk of a scene, whatever. And that can help you figure out their characters. And then if you're just spitballing and going off, then you may find other themes pop up in each piece. The second bit is, I wonder if it might help to think along the lines of some of your really heavily story-based video games. So like Mass Effect. You can play Mass Effect through as one character, but the other main characters still have stuff going on. And there are still there's still hard stopping points. It's an acts, essentially, right? Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Yeah.
And there's always a shared moment or a shared event that each main character has to go through. So if you hit those main events as your Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, whatever, so they may never have to meet, but at least when they do meet, they will have some shared experience based upon something that they all encountered, be it from different perspectives. And that way you have continuity and you can figure, and like Paul said, when you're doing a couple scenes for A, a couple scenes for B, a couple scenes for C, then you're still working with your pacing because you know that as you write those scenes, everybody has to end up time-wise at the same spot. Because the more folks that you juggle who aren't on the same path, it gets more complicated.
Yes, it does.
So, yeah, Terry's like, uh-huh.
I may know a few things about that.
Yeah, maybe just. Tim says,
Yeah.
yes, the classic 3-arc structure can be very useful.
Yeah.
3
Have
acts.
I been?
He said
have I been
3-act
playing
structure, and I think that's probably more
3
appropriate.
acts, depending upon if you like your barbarians. Yes, 3 acts structure, absolutely. But yeah, have I been playing way too much Dragon Age? Yes. Do I love the storytelling component and the fact that there is a full stopping point with shared battles? Absolutely. Does it make me want to write? Yes. Have I? Not really, not yet.
The truth comes out.
I hand wrote 2.5 pages of the bowling alley today. Okay.
It's more than I did. I wrote 200 words. I was busy doing audio crap.
Well, it's your excuse.
6-armed barbarians love the 3 acts structures. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. Now, here's the most important question about this book. What the hell is it called?
I haven't thought about a title. That's just.
Oh,
I don't even have like a
flunk.
finishing. I know, really, I don't like. I'm going to. I know I'm gonna do heavy on like the political theory and econ stuff in the book, and I don't know. I'm gonna channel my inner Modesset. I swear, that may always be money. Like I probably sold money of his books.
You know, you just need to go ahead and have a working title that has that baked in. Then, like that doesn't make sense, but it's sense with a C.
Uh,
And then you can figure out the real title when you get there.
Neutral evil.
That
Neutral evil.
I mean, my solution, if I don't have a title, I will wind up like finding the song or whatever that kind of fits, and the song title winds up being the working title. But with me, that means that you get like weird '90s crap thrown in there. So
How about a profit for all? Because that's sort of what everyone wants, right? Everyone wants a profit. The lawyer wants recompense for all of the mercenaries, and he wants the profit of feeling that he's done right. The capitalist wants capital, even though she's more moral than expected. She's gonna have a lot of twists, and then, of course, like the tradesman was out seeking better opportunity for his labor and skills.
Unrestrained capitalism.
hang on, now I gotta go look up synonyms.
Cosmos public offender. Well, if they uncork the Prophets of Doom, that one has actually has some
I'll be the
like,
sequel.
Or you could just call it, the Prophet Trilogy, and then figure out, Prophets Part 1. And then as you go through, you can come up with really witty titles that, are a play on phrases associated with Prophet.
Yeah, but once you uncork the cosmic horror thing, the joke no longer makes sense because things have changed radically in the worldview.
Well, then it's no longer PROFIT, then it's PROPHET.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's PROBLEM. Did I spell that right?
It was,
Probably.
but I was trying to do the play on the word prophet, and you.
I know.
No, I can see it because it could be a profit for all for book 1, and then take Tim's Prophets of Doom, or like put do the Prophet PROPHET for the second one, right? Because then we know what the horrors are. I don't know what the third one would be though.
Well, that's why you write it the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. Then it'll come up.
Yeah, then it will come up.
Mm-hmm.
Ratty Rooster says, "Oh man, I can't write anything without a title first." I know that feeling.
I'm the opposite. I had never considered it until you asked.
God. For some reason in my head, if I have a title, the story just kind of falls into place for some reason. Because there's usually a scene I've seen in my head and visualized in my brain, and it has a series of words associated with it, and there you go with the title. Just bang. It just happens. And if I don't have a
working title. Got to have a working title.
Saculina.
It may not end up being the real thing, but you got to have something.
Yeah. I mean, I know all of my projects have working titles, but I can promise you that the working titles for some are not going to be actual print titles later, because they won't work.
Tim, I want you to write that story. Stop fucking around. Write that story. That is a great short story right there. The Obscenity Trial of Cosmic Entity 423601. I love it. I
can see a way of working that into this too, as like a short story. Tim, if you don't do it, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna steal the title.
Because that's just too damn good.
Cosmic Entity 423601 versus I don't know. It's got that's the lawyer thing there. What's some anti-obscenity group that that they could sue?
He could libel Cthulhu. He libeled Cthulhu, and that just caused problems.
Oh, that's the name. That's the name of the law one, the little short story. If I took it down that lane, right? They just sue versus Bob.
Versus Bob, Cosmic Horror versus Bob. I love that. That's also a Dale and Tucker versus Evil kind of thing. I like that vibe. I like that vibe a lot.
Actually, let me copy that. I'm really going to steal that from
Earl. It's versus Earl, because Earl. Yeah.
My name is Earl, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Tell you why XXXX. Yeah,
I don't
pretty
know. If
much.
his name is Earl, he's probably stuffed in the trunk of a car, but that's a whole other song. Great song, but
Well, we've been at this for an hour, so hopefully
No.
between us and chat, we've managed to completely inundate you with useless ideas that you'll, probably throw away, but hopefully stirred something in your brain. But that's why we go through this mess. But thanks for coming on, man. It was interesting. I like
No,
that.
thank you for having me. This is great.
Well, good.
We've given you all the bad advice that you can now ignore.
Exactly.
No, y'all give me all the good advice because now I actually have good tendrils.
You have good tendrils? Ooh.
Monsters, prophets, and lawyers. Oh my. I like that.
it's the
Yeah,
next
that's
Warren
gonna be an After
Zevon
Dark, I
song.
hope. You gonna join us for After Dark?
Yeah, I'll be in After Dark.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
That means I gotta send you another
Dude, I
invite.
swear, my internet cutting.
That's
I
right.
feel like
Now we can have
Yeah.
more butt stuff. After Dark,
I knew
but
you were
with more
going
butt
there.
stuff.
I knew you were going there. God.
Why? He's quiet for nearly the entire show, and then he's like, "I have a cat," and it's, "What about the butt stuff?" Really?
Yeah,
He's channeling
I've been
Blofeld.
begging V. I've been begging
You've
V.
been begging V for the butt stuff? Really?
Oh,
Really?
I mean,
That's where you're going?
no,
Honest-
no, for Mistress V.
You're not
There might
getting
be butt stuff in the Mistress
Start
V.
digging. Start digging your way out.
Just
Yeah, just keep
depending
digging
upon
deep.
what you are writing, I am happy to share my rates for narration of certain genres.
Oh
However,
boy.
You have different rates for different genres?
yeah,
On that note, if you have a comment
Hazard
or
Pay. What are you talking about?
if you have a comment or question about this show,
Lube
you
or
can
no
go to,
lube?
you can go to DevRobotSociety.com and punch that contact button like Antowan did, or you can leave us a comment on this post on YouTube. And speaking of, you can find us at DevRobotSociety.com. You can also find us at YouTube.com/DRS Podcast, where we are live every Saturday at 3 p.m. CST. That's the lie we keep telling. Like and subscribe so you know when we're live. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at Patreon.com/DRS Podcast and BuyMeACoffee.com/DRS Podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows like the one that's coming up in 7.5 minutes. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Juan Valentin, James Terrell. Who's this Antowan guy? Tony L. Joy,
Asshole.
Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Isabel Cushy, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible so we can pay our StreamYard bills, which are
So Paul can have
ridiculous.
water.
Yeah, so I can have water. That too. Well, I too, speaking of different tech levels, I too dream of one day having running water in my house.
Next comes the outhouse.
Yeah, I'll be building one of those next week at this level. Okay.
Oh boy, and then the possums. It'll be perfect.
On that note, we are ending this stream. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you had a good time, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye.